Moving on to San Antonio. Again, face coverings and social distancing will be required at all times. Face coverings will be required in the barns and in the show rings. Their show ring is just not big enough to get people spaced out like they want. So kids, that's why we're wearing them at county. Let's just get prepared and used to it, and we're going to wear them at every single major show. Face coverings need to be worn in vehicles at staging. If there is more than one family in a vehicle, they encourage, and I'm going to encourage you to wear your face coverings in there. I know they're not comfortable, and we don't like to wear them, but it's absolutely necessary in case something happens while we're there. There will be no getting in and out of vehicles at staging, and I don't mean that you're going to be locked in there, but they do not want you getting out of your vehicles, congregating in groups, going around visiting, stuff like that. Just prepared when you pull up at Salado Creek to park, take care of your animals in the trailer, and get back in your vehicle. Okay? Again, check the schedule. Make sure you have all the changes there. Their changes came out before the handbook was made, so they are current, but just double check those with the new additional waves to the steer show, hog show, separating sheep and goats, etc. Pens will be spaced out as much as room allows. They're kind of following that state fair. I'm just using that as an example. They're going to have a row of animals, and the row in front of you will be empty to allow for that social distancing. Again, do not think that because that's empty that you can bring all your chairs and all your extra stuff and just lounge and have camps. That is not the intention of that. And the intention is to get people spread out. So keep your tack and camps to a minimum there. You must have passes to get on the grounds. Those passes are included with your child's entry, as you read when we entered, and parking will be free. The difference there, something new this year, is temperature checks will be taken and COVID screening forms will be filled out during staging and before entering the grounds. And so those of you that haul animals down there, as you pull in to the fairgrounds off of that AT&T Parkway, they will be taking temperatures. They will give you COVID screening forms at that time to fill out and hand back as you're arriving. Temperature checks will be taken as you enter the grounds. And so if you've been to San Antonio and you park across what I call the moat up on the hill, when you walk down the hill and enter the grounds, your temperature will be taken every time. So even if you run to the truck to grab something and come back, they're going to take your temperature. It's the, I call them thermal scanners, the big boxes, kind of like security at the airport. You're going to walk through there, it's going to read your temperature. And so, as always, be prepared. Leave yourself plenty of time. They're trying to make it as fast as possible, but that could create a line coming in the gate at 8 o'clock in the morning. If you're in that first class, you don't want to be delayed. So please plan accordingly to that. General public is allowed at this show. They do have rodeos nightly, so keep that in mind. There will be, Brian Ferris said, there will be some shopping available. So, like for instance, if you forget your show shirt, there'll be somewhere to go there and get something or pass a little time. There will be some food vendors on site, food trucks. That main road in between the barns, between the steer barn and the hog barn, is going to look normal with the food vendors and stuff like that right there. So if you need lunch or whatever, that will be there. And again, major shows can't stress this enough, and I can't either. If you are sick or quarantined, they do not want you there. Contact me, contact your ag teacher, and we will get it taken care of through substitute exhibitors. They're going to be more than willing to work with families on that this year. Moving on to Houston. Again, a lot of the same stuff. Face covering and social distancing will be required at all times. Face coverings will be required in the barns and in the show rings. They want you to wear them in vehicles at staging, and there will be no getting out of vehicles at staging, much like I talked about a while ago. Just keep in mind, towns like San Antonio, Houston, and Austin are much different than they are here in San Angelo. And those stock shows and rodeos are going to be watched under a microscope, and so we've got to do things right. And so wear those face coverings at all time. Check the schedule. They've had some schedule changes. Those were published in the handbook and have been out for a while. Pen spaces will look different. There will be no vendors there. They're going to have pens spread out. And from talking to Carl on the phone, what they plan is to have for example, in the sheep and goats and hogs, is less head per pen to do social distancing. They're not going to have the row and then an empty row, but they're just going to try to put less animals per pen. They're going to move those pens, spread them out, more space between them in the aisles, and into where that ag adventure and the shopping is to allow more room. Same thing with the steers. They're just going to try to spread steers out, have more ties, and that's going to move into that shopping area to allow for more room there. Small animals are still going to be on that east end. Steers are going to be in the middle. Setup's going to be very similar to that. Limit your tack in camping around pens. They can't strongly stress that. I know we get in our groups, our family groups, and that's a big part of stock showing is the camaraderie we have with our friends and other families. But they highly discourage that this year, and I'll explain a little bit more here in a minute. There's going to be camping areas where you're used to all the vendors and shopping being. They're going to have camping areas over there for you to go over there, get out of the way, get in your family group and social distance. The way it was explained to me, and the reason for that and all these shows is kind of stay in your family group is if you're in a group of people and let's just say you arrive on Tuesday, somebody gets sick Tuesday night, sick so bad they got to go to the ER that night, and then Wednesday morning they get confirmation that they tested positive for COVID. Well, that health department's going to be asking questions, and if that person is just not thinking clearly, and they said my family was with family X, Y, and Z for a couple hours hanging out in a little camping area, you can be sure they're going to go looking for family X, Y, and Z, and they're going to be put on quarantine, and that's right there in the middle of the show, and you don't want that. So I know we don't like it. Socialization is a big part of stock showing, but you just got to keep in mind we got to do things right. We're very fortunate to be going to a stock show and showing. Wristbands. You've got to have wristbands at Houston to get on the grounds. Y'all saw the email there. They will be distributed at staging with the entry packet. 2 wristbands per entry. I know this has created a lot of talk, but the exhibitor plus 1, so plus an adult. They are specific to those exact show dates and not good for duration of the show. So example, the steers and hogs are in waves. When you show up, you're getting a wristband and a parking for that particular wave. It's not good for the entire steer show or not good for the entire show. It's valid for that exact time. We would get those at check-in. I did talk to them and ask, say one family hauls 3 other families' animals, they will be able to pick up those packets and stuff at staging and then disperse those at the hotel or outside the gates or whatever before you come in. Parking, you'll get 1 pass per exhibitor. That will come with your entry packet is the way they call it. And parking will be on ground. They'll have plenty of room. All that parking is going to be open. If you stay in a hotel and walk, much like I do, you won't be able to walk in that back gate. But without parking, you can just get in the vehicle, drive around and park and walk in. Temperature checks will be taken and COVID screening forms will be filled out during staging and before entering the grounds. And so if you're in the vehicles hauling animals in, they're going to give you those forms, come around, give you those forms, you're going to fill those out. Those need to be filled out within 24 hours of when they collect those. If you're hauling for somebody, we'll be able to get those forms ahead of time. They'll be able to fill them and send them with you to pick up those entry packets. Temperature checks will be taken at staging, and this is what they talked about before. Wear those masks in your vehicles at all times. Temperature checks will be taken upon entering the grounds. New this year, we will all enter. If you're familiar with the NRG Center, we're all going to enter through the glass doors at the front of the building. No coming in the back on the loading dock. We'll all go through the glass doors at the front of the building so they can control traffic in, take those temperature checks. We're going to walk down that corridor where all the food and stuff normally is, and we'll enter the barn through those blue doors. If you've been there, you understand what I'm saying. If you haven't, we'll explain it to you. No big deal, but it's just going to require a little bit more walking up to the front of the building as opposed to coming in the back to the loading dock. No general public will be allowed, as you've seen. There will be no shopping there, But Carl said the NRG Food Center, their contractor that has those concession stands that are usually closed while we're there, will be open. And it's your basic coffee, Cokes, water, snacks, Snickers, stuff like that. And then whatever they serve, you know, a hot dog or a hamburger or a slice of pizza. He wasn't for sure. They may have a Chick-fil-A station or something like that. So there'll be limited concession stands there if you need those. And then if you're sick or in quarantine, they don't want you there. And they'll work with you. And the sale has been moved to May with the rodeo at Houston. That has been a recent change, and so that's been moved. Moving on to Rodeo Austin, kind of finishing out the year. Face coverings and social distancing will be required at all times. Same story as the other shows. They're going to be required in the barns and in the show ring, warning vehicles at staging, and no getting out of vehicles at staging. Check your schedule, make sure it's current. Pins will be spaced out. Like Rachel said, our barn's not the nicest, but it is big, and they're going to space those pins out to get that social distancing and meet that percentage requirement that the city's going to ask for them to do. Limit your tack and your camping there. You must have passes to get on the ground. Last I talked to her, she was leaning towards those passes will be picked up at check-in, at staging with your exhibitor packet, much like Houston. So we'll work on that as we get closer. And temperature checks will be taken upon entering the gate there. So, in general, I know we went through that pretty quick. That was a lot of information. A lot of it is the same. In general, give Haley or myself, the office, a call. Call your ag teacher if you have questions. We're here to help. It's going to be a great year. We're fortunate to get to show. These volunteers and shows are doing a great job of putting everything together. If you went to State Fair, you realize that it was enjoyable. And these shows are going to be enjoyable. And so we look forward to having them. To finish up, I want to congratulate all the kids that went to Odessa this weekend. Tom Green County was well represented. They called out Tom Green County's name quite a bit. I never get tired of hearing that. Lots of kids made the sale, lots of kids in the top 10. And congratulations, Cade Thomas. His senior year, he wins the show there. If you're familiar with Fine Wools and Herefords, you know how prestigious Odessa and Sand Hill Stock Show is. And that's been a goal of his and his family for a long time. And I thought it was tremendous that he won it his senior year and just kept grinding every year and got to that point and reached his goal. Just to leave you with it, good luck at the county show. Let's have fun. It's going to be a good time. And holler if you have any questions. Thanks.